Unemployment is high and jobs are at risk as companies experience a financial distress. Well, the Employment and Labour Department has the unenviable task of trying to stop the pain. The department says it's helped by institutions such as the Public Investment Corporation as well as the Industrial Development Corporation. But let's just now find out more from the Labour Department's Director General, Tobile Lamati. Tobile, thank you so much for your time. You're joining us from our Pretoria studios. And I suppose I want to start our conversation with regards to, the department's recent findings on the high unemployment and retrenchment rates in South Africa. We've always had the data, we've always had the information that there's high unemployment and retrenchment going on, but what are your latest findings?
Good morning and thanks for having me. We know that the economy is not doing well, and it's only in instances where the economy is doing well that you may begin to talk about high levels of employment, because the economy is able to absorb the unemployed people. So in our situation, our economy is depressed. So we therefore, companies finding it very difficult to expand. I'm sure recently you heard that the manufacturing sector production levels dropped drastically, I think by 1.8%. And that alone tells you a story, because the manufacturing sector is a sector that in most countries anchors employment. So you want to make sure that that's a sector that that grows, so that it can absorb people in employment. Do we sit and moan? No. In instances like this, when the economy is not doing well, most countries, including South Africa, use its active labour market policies to stimulate both the demand for labour and also the supply side of things. And that's why the partnerships that we have with the PIC and industrial and other agencies is so important, because it helps us to meet that, or to stimulate that demand, and also being able to supply labour whenever it's needed.
And Mr. Lamati, let's talk about that partnership for a moment. I mean, have you consulted with companies facing these financial distresses as part of your intervention? If so, what are they saying?
We have consulted with them. You know that we have an agency, an entity of the department called Productivity South Africa. So that's the entity that's in touch with a number of companies that are experiencing financial distress. And a number of them are as a result of not following basic productivity principles. I mean, you know that October is a productivity month, and we had productivity awards recently, and a number of the companies that won awards, they said the reason why they were able to achieve what they achieved was because they focused on improving productivity levels, secondly, and also improving their efficiencies and their ability to absorb or create a number of jobs. So Productivity South Africa is helping to turn around the situation through using a program called Turnaround Solution, which is funded by the Unemployment Insurance Fund. So it's a combination of not focusing on productivity, and I'm sure you are aware that the World Economic Forum released its global competitive report 2 weeks ago, and even though we've improved our competitive ranking, we're still not where we want to be, and that's why we drive as a department through Productivity South Africa this campaign that companies need to make sure that they improve their productivity levels.
So we are aware at this moment that government is doing what it can to improve productivity. According to the World Economic Forum report, as you just mentioned right now, South Africa's competitive ranking is doing quite well. But at the same time, how do you advise that we future-proof work and jobs, this to avoid further job losses? We saw the Sustainability Summit recently, the Fourth Industrial Revolution Summits, Digital Economy Summits, always talking about Africa and South Africa future-proofing work, but also employees, sort of upskilling and making sure that their skills match where the world is going, which is the Fourth Industrial Revolution's era. How do you think we can do that, especially from government's perspective?
I think that there are a number of ways. One, I'm sure you are aware that the Department of Basic Education has recently introduced technical subjects at high school level, which is excellent, because what it then means is that we need to start training young people to acquire skills that are required by the economy. I spoke earlier on. I spoke about the importance of a manufacturing sector, and that the sector that requires those skills. And secondly, we need to talk to our institutions of higher learning so that they can position themselves and provide a response to, or provide training that is also demanded by the economy. So our sitters, working with the institutions of higher learning and the Department of Employment and Labour and Department of Trade and Industry, they need to play a very, very important role. We have a number of initiatives or interventions as government. I'm sure you're aware that we have a jobs fund, we have employment tax incentives. These are the interventions that enable companies to train young people, provide them with skills, and also place them in employment. So if we can sharpen up and scale up those interventions.
Right.
As a department, we also have what we now call the Temporary Employer Relief Scheme, which assists companies that are in distress. If they were thinking about retrenching or laying off those employees, we come in and intervene and provide a relief so that they don't have to pay a portion of a salary to those workers. We carry the portion of the payment of the portion of the salary to unemployment insurance fund. So we have reviewed that scheme, and we have made sure that it's effective.
Thank you so much for your time. That was Tobile Lamati, the Director General of the Employment and Labour Department.